Hey everybody, welcome to our evening here with the Disability Youth Panel Back to School edition. Back to school. Some of you that may be causing some, yeah, and some of you might be going, oh, I'm not ready. And some of you may fall somewhere in between. And I gotta say, I've been on this planet doing back to school a long, long time, and I have never seen a world where back to school looks the way it does this year. So I think this is going to be a very interesting ride as we go back in. Some of us are going back into buildings, right? Some of us might not be going back yet, but whatever situation you've got going on, we are here to have a conversation about all of the things surrounding back to school, whether that, like I said, is causing you some or causing you some cheers, and whether you're going to be in person, virtual, or a hybrid mix. Okay. Hands up in your Zoom room there if you are really sick of hearing the word hybrid or have never heard that word hybrid as much as you have in the past year. That's a word that I will probably never care to hear ever again after we get through this crisis. But here tonight, we are here to talk with some incredible leaders in the disability community that I've had the incredible blessing to get to know a little bit as we've been preparing to bring you all this information tonight. So let me just first say thank you so much to all of you that are taking action to tune in today and learn some strategies about making this back to school, no matter what it looks like for you, making this year of back to school the best back to school it can be. We can all sit and talk about different strategies and theories about how to succeed, but it's you that's taking action to be here and listen to these strategies that is really making a difference. So kudos to you. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you to all of our behind the scenes techies that are always the unsung heroes of events like this that have so many things to think about with the sound and the visuals and all of that. Thank you to our ASL interpreters that are here to make sure that this is accessible for all of us. And thank you to our presenters that I'm going to introduce you to in just a minute here. And a massive thank you to the 3 organizations that came together to make sure that we could put this information out there to you all and get all of you to us tonight. So let me give you a quick rundown of who our organizations are that are putting this on tonight. First, we have something super cool, Tech Kids Unlimited. Tech Kids Unlimited, how about that? Tech Kids Unlimited is on a mission to empower neurodiverse students' lives through computer science and technology skills. It's a New York-based not-for-profit educational organization. TKU inspires digital natives with disabilities to create, develop, and share the tools of technology in a supportive and nurturing, individualized environment. By addressing gaps in access to accessible educational experiences with technology, TKU strives to change the paradigm for education and employment for neurodiverse students. Rock on, TKU. Good stuff right there. Okay, our second organization that you're going to hear from tonight, Thriving Blind. The Thriving Blind movement began with the success of the book, Thriving Blind, Stories of Real People Succeeding Without Sight. This woman named Kristin Smedley. That's me, you guys. I'm Kristin Smedley with Thriving Blind, and I wrote the book that I'm mentioning here. So I wrote the book and published it in 2019. And it was to be the resource for others that I didn't have when a doctor told me that my son was blind. It debuted as a #1 new release on Amazon and quickly moved to the top of the bestseller list. Now, my book's popularity grew, and then the Facebook community grew by leaps and bounds. But it became pretty clear to me, as I'm sure that you all can imagine, that one book of 13 stories was not enough to change perceptions of blindness from pity to positivity and equip families impacted by blindness to thrive. Now, there's an annual global summit, worldwide membership, and collaborations with industry, organizations, and education systems. Thriving Blind is no longer a hope concept. It's a community with a goal and a blueprint for all that are impacted by blindness to thrive. And I'm so excited because I know that all of you are interested in thriving too. So I'm happy to see you all here. Okay, and our third powerhouse organization that is putting this on tonight, Deaf Kids Code. I love this. Deaf Kids Code, their vision is meant to bridge the severe economic and social gaps that exist among the deaf and hard of hearing through the cultivation of computing and technology skills. In order to fill this disparity, we believe that by incorporating this into the deaf education, as well as reaching those who are mainstreamed is an essential tool that can take them to a new level of global participation that has never happened before. Through the universal language of computing, they can become a vital asset in filling the opportunities awaiting them now and into our future. How cool is that? So thank you to the three organizations that came together to put this on tonight. As I said in that little intro, Thriving Blind, my name is Kristin Smedley. I am beside myself, excited to be here with all of you tonight. I happen to love back to school. I'm a former teacher, so this is kind of my sweet spot. So let's dive in, and I want you all to meet our presenters, our panelists tonight that you're going to hear from to learn some strategies, hear some stories, and we are going to have time for a Q&A at the end. And I'm going to talk to you all about that Q&A in just a moment here, but I don't want to hold back any longer on our panelists. So let's bring them on screen here. Let's bring up my new friend, Aaron, that is with Tech Kids Unlimited. Hey, Aaron, how are you?
Oh, I'm good. Well, Tech Kids Unlimited is a nonprofit organization that teaches technology to the neurodiverse youth.
And if I remember right, Aaron, you just recently graduated high school, is that right?
Yes.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, we cannot wait to hear from you tonight, Aaron. All right, next up on the list, we have a guy that I kind of know pretty well, Michael Smedley from Thriving Blind. What's up, Michael?
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, I hear you have a great mom.
She's pretty fantastic.
Michael's my son, you guys. How about that? How about that? And Michael, tell us a little bit about where you're tuning in from.
Yeah, I'm tuning in right now from my apartment in State College, which is the town surrounding Penn State University.
Penn State. And what year are you starting there?
Hold your ears, Mom. I'll be a senior.
Can't even believe. Hey, I don't look like I have a senior in college, right? For those of you that can't see me on the screen, I'm just gonna wink and say, just agree with me. I don't look like I have a senior in college. All right, Michael, thanks for tuning in, man. All right, and our third panelist, Dahlia. What's up, Dahlia? Dahlia's following the—
Hello, what's up?
There you go. You're still on mute. Dahlia was following the directions from our webinar organizer and kept it on mute.
So I'm from Deaf Kids Coding, and I'm muted because I'll be signing.
Okay, awesome, awesome. Thank you, Dahlia. And all right, so we've got Aaron, Michael, and Dahlia helping us work through some great back to school strategies, some situations that we may have encountered. Okay, I did let you all know that I was going to address the Q&A. We are going to have a Q&A later in the session. Feel free as we're talking and addressing all of these back to school issues to drop your questions in the Q&A. I just want to make sure that everybody realizes there is a Q&A section at the bottom of your screen. It is different from the chat. We are not using the chat tonight. We're going to use the Q&A. And if you don't mind, if you do have a question, even if you don't have a question, drop in that Q&A where you're tuning in from. If you are in the States, let us know what state you're in. If you're in another country, let us know what that is. And then let us know what your question is as we go on here. If you have some burning questions and want to drop them in now, I promise you, I will be looking in that Q&A box throughout the evening. We may be able to address some while the presenters are chit-chatting about the topics that we have. But then we definitely want to hear from you. We're going to save some time. I promise. I tend to talk a lot and I will look at the clock and make sure that we get it in there. Okay. All right. So when I got to meet these incredible, I'm going to say kiddos because I'm way older than you guys. I know you want to be young adults, whatever. I'm going to say kids. When I met all you guys while we were preparing for this, some themes came up about what you all believe to be extremely important to have a successful school year, especially in the very beginning. So I want to just start with a couple of those topics and then let's see where this goes. We're going to have a good time with it. So first, and I'm gonna ask Dahlia to be the first one to chime in on this because it was very important to her and her face lit up over this topic. And that is around the topic of advocating for yourself in terms of classrooms, your school experience. So I'm gonna leave this open right now for Dahlia to walk us into this topic with her thoughts.
So being deaf in a mainstream school is a struggle, especially the fact that I am verbal as well. So for example, when I go to class and I might ask the teacher to write a note or something for me, and sometimes they will refuse to give that to me, give me written notes, because they think that I can hear. And so they say, oh, you don't need to have written notes, you can take notes. So they have a really hard time understanding that while I'm watching the interpreter and I'm also trying to watch the board, I can't take those notes. If I look away to take those notes, then I'm missing information. And that's information I might need for a test or something like that. So I have learned how to advocate for myself and make sure that they are following my IEP. So I make sure that guided notes or whatever other things I need are in my IEP, and then I can advocate for those teachers to make sure that they're following my IEP. So often I will say to them, but guided notes are in my IEP. And sometimes they're a little speechless when I give that back to them. So I know it's important to continue to advocate for myself. For movies, always making sure that they have closed captions. And, that's important because I want to be able to understand the content in the video. And I also try to let my teachers know at the beginning of the school year that I have an IEP, because then that way, sometimes if they don't know it, then they don't have these things set up for me. So I try to let them know in the beginning that I do in fact have an IEP, and I make sure that they get that IEP. Also, I will ask for the names of my teachers ahead of time. That way I can make sure that a copy of my IEP gets sent to them so that we all can be prepared. And that has seemed to help a lot. Because when I first started high school, I realized that the advocating for myself was really important. Elementary and middle school, it's less of a big deal, but once you get to high school, you're becoming an adult, you're becoming independent, and you have to really learn how to advocate for yourself. So I'm getting ready for college. And I still have my IEP. And so that's something that I can continue to let people know, professors as well. And so I take that information with me when I go into class. And I just think it's really important to be able to advocate for yourself and for students to know how to advocate for themselves. Especially deaf kids, they know that there's a struggle. And so because of that struggle, they miss out on a lot of different things. And so learning how to advocate for themselves is really important. And it helps me to become more advanced.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that, Dahlia. And I want to make sure that it lands with all of you that are watching. Dahlia mentioned a few times that she knows exactly what is in her IEP. part of being able to advocate successfully for yourself is knowing what is in that IEP. So thanks so much for that, Dahlia. Excellent. Aaron, do you have anything to add to the conversation about this? Did you know what was in your IEP? Did you have any struggles with teachers and advocating for yourself?
Well, well, I'm also going to discuss with how I advocate next. So yeah, so I can start.
Go right ahead.
All right. So when I was in elementary school, loud sounds such as school bells, sirens wailing, and etc., they made me really scared due to my hypersensitivity. Like I was really like sensitive to loud sounds. And school bells and fire bells, and also for the fire drill would cause me to insert my fingers into my ears so I can like try and make it quieter. If you have issues with loud sounds, you can get noise canceling headphones since they produce like a white noise and it's more like calming. But in the long term, they could increase your social withdrawal because you're not going to have that many coping skills and you can become dependent on the headphones. Alternatively, you can also slowly increase your exposure to noises by observing from far away. And then as you get used to it, you can move a little bit closer with every time. Like I've done that at elementary school with flushing toilets, such as like moving closer to it as I was starting to tolerate it more. And I was able to handle that sound previously when I couldn't do it before. But when it comes to social interactions, such as making friends, it was really difficult and I didn't have that many friends because my social skills were very limited. But to form and maintain friendships, make sure that that person that you're friends with is a true friend, because there is many people out there that are really toxic nowadays. And you shouldn't really trust anyone that you meet the first time. Surround yourself with people who will always support you in age-appropriate behavior by surrounding yourself with people who are around the same age as you are. Like for me, most of my friends are born in 2002, 2003, and 2004, and those friends have always supported me in the long term and have helped me grow as a person. But you shouldn't rush the process of friendships because in some cases you'll naturally find a group of friends and you'll naturally grow up as well in the long term. It takes time to get to this point, but it's possible. You can also participate in clubs to form friendships with other people. And during the 2019 to 20 school year and the 2020 to 2021 school year, I was in the Mental Health Awareness Club and formed friendships with other peers, as well as the presidents that were in the club. There were 2 presidents in that club. When taking exams, I was provided with extra time since it takes longer to finish a test than most people do. So this way I can understand like the test and the questions that are being asked. Most autistic people take longer to finish because comprehending what the test is asking for the majority is difficult. You may not think you need the extra time, but in the long term, it'll save you later when you have to take a difficult test, especially in college. And this helps if you need the extra time so you can take advantage of it and use the extra time to take more time at the test and process instructions and understand the question and the requirements of the exam. In college, you have to sign up with their Center for Disabilities, and they'll tell your teacher they are accommodated for extra time. They won't be able to do it for you if you don't let them know. Unlike in high school, middle school, and elementary school, where they do know. But next week, I'm going to be going to Brooklyn College, and I need to use the same skills that I acquired from high school. I also have a supportive family, so if you have a supportive family, it'll be easier to go through the challenges with their support.
Excellent. Thank you, Aaron. That was a wealth of information. I want to point out a few things that Aaron mentioned to make sure that they land well with everybody. Again, I hope that you're hearing the theme here. Aaron was talking about what he did. He took the initiative. He made sure that he was not only advocating, he made sure that he was responsible for finding the friends that worked well for him. Mentioning about the extended time. He knows about that's in his IEP and why that's important, and made sure that he was advocating for that. The theme here seems to be that these successful members of our panel had success because they are taking charge. They are controlling what is happening with their education. We are not leaving it in the hands of other people. And I love that Dahlia mentioned that, you know, we learn some stuff through elementary school, middle school, and then by high school, you know, you got to get ready to be able to go out to college, and you need to learn those strategies and be advocating for yourself. Michael, Aaron opened up the door for a lot of conversation here, and we're going to dive into a lot of the things that he talked about. I want to back up for a second and ask you to talk a little bit about the things that you've learned in advocating for yourself, specifically because I know your story quite well. If you could talk to your role in the IEP meetings and how that evolved in learning how to and how you learned how to advocate for yourself.
Yeah, for sure. So I started getting involved with my IEP process it was around 5th or 6th grade, and I wasn't doing much except I went to the meetings. I didn't really say a ton, like I wasn't running the meetings, I wasn't running the show, but I would sit in and listen and kind of give my input to my parents and my teacher for the visually impaired, my mobility instructor, and my classroom teacher, everybody that was on the IEP team developing the IEP for the next year. I was kind of in the room seeing how that whole thing worked and being a part of the discussion, even if it was kind of a little bit further back from the big discussion. But this gave me the chance. By 7th and 8th grade, I was running certain parts of my IEP meeting. So I would talk about what accommodations I think I needed in the classroom or in extracurricular activities or O&M, maybe doing 1 or 2 things, parts of that meeting. And then that opened the door. By high school, I was ready to run the entire meeting. So I came in and my parents were still there because I wasn't 18, and they kind of took a back seat, and I ran the IEP meeting and talked with my teachers about what I needed to be successful in the classroom and the rest of the school. So that really prepared me for after high school. After the IEP team disappeared and I moved to Nashville to do my first year of college, and then again moved back up to Pennsylvania, here to Penn State, so that I could walk into the door of a disabilities office at any campus that I went to, at any college that I went to, and said, these are all the things that I need to be successful. Let me know what I need to do to make them happen here at your university.
Excellent. So listen, if that is stressing anybody out, that 5th and 6th grade, Michael started attending his IEP meetings, it's okay. Take a deep breath. If you are in high school now and you didn't do that, it's okay. The best part about things like this is you can start today. You can start today with getting involved and taking responsibility and learning advocacy. That's what this is all about. So make sure we have a deep breath there. No anxiety. These are things that you can totally start today and move forward successfully. So thanks for sharing all that. Okay, we're going to jump in the questions that I had discussion points. We're going to jump around a little bit because that's kind of how Kristin Smedley works. Because Aaron brought up an incredible point that actually goes universal outside of talking about school success with disabilities. It's even outside of school success. It encompasses all of our journeys all the time. And basically what he said was, choose your friends wisely. We all need to think about that. Even when you're as old and wrinkled as I am, I also have to choose friends wisely. You want people that are going to be supportive. And as Aaron pointed out, does that always happen first go around? Not necessarily. That's okay. We all learn that some people might not be the cup of soup, shall we say, that we were hoping for. But let's, if we could, if you guys don't mind, if we can dive into that a little bit. And I'm gonna, Aaron shared that incredible advice with us. I'm gonna move over to Dahlia for a second and ask you, in your school experience, in choosing friends, you know, finding friends to hang out with, dealing with friends, dealing with disabilities and stuff like that, what kinds of things have you learned that you can share to help us all succeed?
Yes, in the beginning, things were different. Like, for example, in elementary school, I had bilateral cochlear implants. So in the beginning, I had like these screws, you know, and I was like 10 years old when this surgery had happened. So the kids would look at me and they would stare at me and they would say, "What is that? Why do you have that?" And I mean, this happened every single day and it was embarrassing. So I used to have like a way that I would cover them, and then I would just wear my hair down. And then my CIs, my cochlear implants, I got an infection. And so then I had to take them off. And then when I take them off, I wasn't able to hear anything at all. So I had to learn how to manage that. And so I was just left with this spot. So, and then I had all these other questions again. What happened to your head? Why does it look like that? What's going on? And so again, all of these questions coming in to me from my peers. And that was a lot to manage as well. You know, I would try to ignore them, or I would try to hide in the beginning. That's what I would do. And then I learned that I just needed to accept it. Yep, I am in fact hard of hearing. And so then when I would make friends, at first my friends would be very pitiful toward me, or, "Oh, you know, you're deaf, poor thing." And then I would say in middle school, I became the smart kid. And so some people were really shocked by that. They were, "Oh, but you're deaf." And so people were skeptical about that, you know, like people think that deaf kids mean that you're dumb. And so this was something that I would go through every year. I would get lots of awards for my academic success. And so one day, you know, my best friend, we won an award. And then when we got back to class, that friend approached me and she said, "Oh, the teacher gave you that award." And that teacher was my favorite. She helped me so much. And I was like, "Yeah, I got an award. Isn't that cool?" And she looked at me and directly, I mean, not laughing, not joking, nothing like that. And she said, "Oh, she gave it to you because you were deaf. She felt bad for you."
Mm.
And I was speechless.
Mm.
You know, I was like, "No, this was an accomplishment for me. I earned this." And, you know, my friend was just, it was really oppressive when that situation happened. So, you know, someone overheard that conversation that was happening. And so, you know, I could tell that people wanted to say something, but I was just so embarrassed by the whole thing. And so then finally, there was another girl who came in and approached the situation, and she kind of blew up a little bit. And, you know, she told my friend that that was not right, that she should not have said that. And that was the moment where I realized a couple of things. You know, I realized that people can be mean.
Mhm.
And that people aren't always happy when others succeed and they don't. And then I also learned in that moment to stand up for myself no matter what. So then I started high school. And it was really in high school, you know, again, from those experiences of being embarrassed, I just had accepted, you know what, I'm deaf. And I really started to grow and thrive. And so I was meeting people and I was making friends. And I would just tell people, you know what? I'm deaf and sometimes I struggle to hear you. And so I just need you to speak slowly and clearly. And I finally was able to have success in making friendships and real friendships, people who were willing to help me, but not pity me. People who are willing to learn sign. And, you know, I would just tell folks, you know what? I just communicate differently. And then what I would, you know, in the evenings, I would just, you know, tell people like, hey, I need you to speak a little louder so that I can hear the things that you're saying. And so again, I was just really advocating for what I needed. You know, I am deaf and hard of hearing, and there's no reason for me to hide that. And so that was really what I learned that day. And I learned that, again, it's just important to advocate for myself. So if somebody says something and I'm not able to hear it, I just ask them to say it again, or I ask them to speak up. And I do the same thing at my job. You know, I have very helpful coworkers there.
Excellent. Thank you so much for sharing all that, Dahlia. And I want to let all of you know, if you cannot see Dahlia's face, I want to let you in on a little thing here. As she's talking about all of these things, standing up for yourself and her experience, her face is beaming with pride and joy that she, you know, it's not a pity party here at all that she's having for herself, looking at her face beaming with joy. It is, she learned from all of those experiences. And I love, Dahlia, that you said, and I wrote it down here so that I remember it forever, stand up for myself no matter what. And my other favorite part of what Dahlia was talking about is educating other people. When you're advocating for yourself, doing it in a way that you're educating people, because in my experience of my 50 gajillion years on this planet, I've realized that so many times people have a bias or maybe a bad attitude about things like disability or other things because they just aren't educated. They have no idea, or they're very awkward and feel weird about asking questions. And Dahlia is just putting the information out there. Hey, I hear a little differently. I communicate differently. And here's what will help me be successful. I think that's one of the most important things that we can learn tonight. Man, I'm learning all kinds of things. Maybe I'll have a t-shirt business after this. I'm going to put all these things on t-shirts. Choose your friends wisely. Stand up for yourself no matter what. All right, now I'm going to put Michael in the hot seat because you got to keep us rolling here with all kinds of good stuff. What I want, Michael, what I'd love for you to share in terms of social strategies and how to manage the different things that happen that are like, I'm going to air quote here, some typical teen stuff and school stuff. Michael had a very interesting situation being a blind student in a school where so many kids have cars and can drive to school. And of course, Michael was not able to do that. And for a lot of blind youth, as you guys can imagine, and maybe in your own situation with whatever you have as an adversity, maybe you aren't able to get a driver's license like the other kids in the school and have access like that. But I want Michael to share the story of how he circumvented that, what would have maybe been something not so positive. Michael, can you share the story of the honors lot?
So to preface this, I have every intent of going to law school, and my teachers for years have told me I should because I'm really, really good at picking out loopholes to everything that they've ever said in assignment instructions. So for our high school was massive, and there was the regular student parking lot for juniors and seniors all the way down this massive hill. And there was a smaller lot right up on the level of the building that was the honors lot. So it was only for seniors and you had to have a certain GPA. So I looked at the requirements for the honors lot to get a parking pass, and it said must be a senior with a 3.2 GPA or higher. It said nothing about having a driver's license. So a bunch of my friends, I had really good grades in high school. I was an honors student. I was doing really well. And some of my friends that lived near me weren't honor students. They didn't make the GPA cutoff. So I walked into the office and the lady behind the desk was shocked when I walked in the parking pass. And she was very confused. And I was like, well, I met the GPA requirement and I'm a senior. And she was like, I guess you did. So I got the parking pass and started texting some of my friends who had lower lot passes and said, so I've got an honors lot pass and you've got a car. I think we can make a deal. So I ended up getting a couple of my friends who had lower lot passes to drive me into school in exchange for getting to have my honors lot pass.
Yes. And I will say that they did at the school, they pulled me aside and made sure that he wasn't going to be driving the car. He was going to have somebody drive him. I said, yeah, he has not figured out how to drive the car yet, but that's coming. But the reason I wanted Michael to share that story, besides giving a little lightness here to what can sometimes be a heavy topic with figuring out the social scene, right? Is because creativity goes a long way in being successful at school and figuring things out. And as Michael said, finding some loopholes in the system that work for you. And I will say that there are a lot of moms that were not happy with that strategy because they thought that since their kid didn't study hard enough in junior year, they should be walking up that hill. And Michael had them in the honors slot, giving him a ride. But so the point is, let's be creative in our strategies in terms of being successful at school. Hey, Aaron, I just wanted to check in with you, buddy, and see if there was anything else besides your profound statements on choosing good people to befriend. Any other social strategies that you can share?
Well, yes, and also like if you are friends with that person, look for some signs that they may not be good for you in case they may not be like good, and look for signs that they may be good for you.
I like that. So keep your radar up to make sure that once you and I can tell you this from when I went to college. You know, I thought that my roommate was a phenomenal choice, and then about 2 months in, I thought, whoa, I did not make a good choice here, and I had to come up with some strategies to figure that out. So you're exactly right, Aaron. You do have to keep your radar up and make sure that it is a good choice, or maybe give a second chance to somebody that didn't start out so great, and maybe they come around once. Like Dahlia said, we educate them on some strategies to help us be successful. Okay, great. These are all incredible. I'm gonna take a real quick look into the Q&A. Okay, and we're going to get to David's question that is specific to autism in 1 second. Here's what I wanted to see if we could. I'm looking at the time. We do have a few minutes before we dive into all of the Q&A. And David, I will get to your question, I promise. I want to see if you guys can. I know that this topic could go on and on and on. So I'm going to ask you just to give some highlights of some assistive technology pieces or technology in general that you utilize in school now, or was a big part of your school success for a few years. Just a few tech pieces that would be a good piece of equipment for other people to look into using, and how you use them and how they gave you some success. Let's see, Dahlia, do you want to jump into that one first?
Yeah, sure. I do have several resources that I do use. I have a cochlear implant, and it is attached to the bone. So I'm able to hear the interpreter. It just might sound a little different using the implant with the bone attacher. So it goes directly to the bone. And I use that with, right now I'm using a, well, I did when I was in high school. I use the Roger pen. And that is such an awesome device for me to use. I'm able to Bluetooth that up directly to my teacher's microphone, and it goes directly to my implant. And I'm able to hear the teacher or the students. And I also use closed captioning when videos are being shown. I'm able to put the pen near the speakers of the microphone, and I'm able to hear that loud and clear. And then again, using closed captioning helps me fill in those gaps. So for myself, I do use Bluetooth.
I'll use Bluetooth with my cochlear implant, and that's how I will connect with my phone. And also, that's another way that I can connect with other students. I'm able to listen to music that way as well. And so, you know how like students in class will use their earbuds or their AirPods. And so what I'll do is I will just connect my phone to my cochlear implant. So it's kind of the same thing. But the nice thing is that a lot of times people won't know that I'm connected. But now sometimes when it gets connected, I won't realize how loud it is. And so I'll notice that people are staring at me and I'll be like, why are they staring at me? I'll be like, what's going on? And so sometimes people will have to let me know. But typically their face, I can tell by their face what's going on. You know, and they'll kind of get a little bit embarrassed for me, and then they'll say, "Oh, you know, we can hear whatever's going on." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, I didn't realize it was that loud." You know, and I'm not embarrassed about it. I just adjust the volume and I say, "Oh, you know, thanks for letting me know." But I can always know when it's a little too loud. I'll notice that people are start to stare at me. But then now I have people who will let me know what's going on. You know, because I don't want to be a distraction to other students in the class. And so I appreciate that folks will let me know what's going on. And really, it's nice with technology. Technology has can really help students advance in a lot of different ways. You know, again, I know that there are a lot of different apps that you can use. And I usually will let the teachers know about different things that they can use. And I, again, will make sure that those things are in my IEP as well, because I want to help teachers who might not know what resources they need as well.
Excellent. I love all of that. And especially, I want to make sure that I know this is the teacher in me, you guys, but I want to make sure that that it lands that Dahlia said, I make sure that those things are in my IEP, because you can have all the tools in the world that work for you, but if they're not in the IEP and the staff and the team doesn't realize that they have to abide by that, then that's where we have some struggles. So thank you so much for closing that awesome stuff out with again, Dahlia mentioning about that, how important the stuff is in that IEP. And again, if you guys are getting a little stressed about the IEP that you don't know what's in it, it's okay. We start today, go find it, you know, talk with your IEP team, get to know it and know all the things in it and what you can be advocating for. It's all good. It's all good. This is all success strategies. And it's a lot. I know that we're bringing a lot to you and you can unpack it and use the things that are going to work for you. Erin, how about you? In terms of technology, is there things that work for you really well?
Well, for technology, if I used to have like high sensitivity to like sounds, I could use like noise canceling headphones.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, AirPods.
Excellent. And that's a great example of something that was a technology that was built for all kinds of uses, right? You know, something that is just, it doesn't have to necessarily be under the category of assistive technology. It's technology out there that you can use to be successful. I love that, especially those noise canceling ones. If you have that sensitivity to sounds, that's a phenomenal example. Michael, how about you? And Michael, I want to let you know that we have about 3 minutes because Michael can really get in deep to the technology stuff, but just give us the highlights of the things that you use.
Yeah, for sure. The biggest thing that I use every day is my iPhone, and it has since branched out to be my MacBook as well. Apple's VoiceOver, which is their screen reader software, works really well for me. I like the way that it performs, the way that it handles people that I know that use their screen magnification software, Zoom, they really like it. And the nice thing why I chose to jump into the Apple ecosystem is because it's on every phone and every laptop and every iPad that they make. So for instance, when my mom is struggling to figure something out on her phone, I can grab her phone from her and triple click the home button and VoiceOver turns on and I can use it. Or if her phone dies and we're out and she needs to make a call, all I have to do is triple click my phone and VoiceOver is off and she can use it and we can just pass it back and forth. Just like if I wasn't using VoiceOver, we can interact with the same device at the same time pretty much. I also use a Braille Note Apex, which is an electronic Braille note taker. And similar to what Dahlia was saying, I can connect my phone to my Braille Note and see my phone screen on the Braille Note. Another thing that's been really helpful to me is bone conducting headphones. And if you're not familiar with what they are, they, instead of going in your ear like an earbud, they actually sit on the bone in front of your ear because we can hear sound through that bone. I have no idea how that works. I'm not a doctor or a scientist, but when I'm sitting in a lecture hall, I can put those connected to my laptop over my head and it still leaves both of my ears open to listen to the lecture so that I don't have one ear blocked up with an earbud.
Excellent. I know those bone conductor ones are phenomenal with where it just blows my mind how they sit not in your ear, but hey, I'll watch a webinar on the science of that someday. But here's a very important point that I want to make sure that everybody hears. And it lands with, we can have all of the technology and assistive technology in the world out there and invented and sitting there. But if we don't have the access to it, if we don't take the action steps to go get those crucial tools, we're not going to have all the benefits that these guys just mentioned. So I want you all to make sure that you take responsibility and take initiative to get yourself the access to those tools to be able to use them. And that could be your family, your IEP coordinator, a teacher that you really got along with at school, somebody that can help you advocate for those tools, because the tools really break down the barriers and give us all access to the education, the social life, and all the things that we want to be successful. I can't believe, as I'm looking at the clock, that we have to actually start landing the plane soon. I'm having so much fun talking about all this. Again, I'm geeking out as a former teacher, plus a mom that is so proud that you guys aren't even all of my kids. And I feel like you're in my family now, watching you just light up over these successful things that you have figured out and that you're sharing, that you're giving so much to this community and sharing all of these strategies. So let's do this. I'm gonna start with you, Aaron, because there is a question. Let me just make sure, from David, that wanted to specifically hear about your we're gonna have each of you sum up your words of wisdom or your takeaways that you want people to walk away from this in terms of your point of view from your experience. And Aaron, I'm going to start with you because it was David's question that prompted this for me to say or to ask. What would you say in terms of a student with autism and your success strategies and things that were important to you? Just give us a general summary of what you want people to walk away with.
Well, being a student with autism, it was a challenge, especially with my disability and like not being able to have that many like friendships, but I was able to overcome it, and I started building friendships beginning in like 7th grade.
Wow, beginning in 7th grade.
Well,
So typically 7th grade is a challenging year.
Yeah, I mean, I still had some friendships before then, but I didn't have that many until starting in 7th grade.
Aaron, you have just eased a lot of stress for people, especially parents that are watching this, because 7th grade, those middle school years, I don't know of one adult friend in my life or colleague or anyone that would say, oh, I would love to do 7th grade and middle school again. Those are some tough years. I am thrilled to hear that you figured out strategies and found a way to make good friends in 7th grade. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's important for people that are not looking forward to the middle school years. It is possible, and with strategies like this, you can actually make it happen. Thanks so much for sharing that, Erin. And thank you, David, for teeing up that question to give us this chance to talk about the things that worked overall. Dahlia, how about you, in terms of, from your point of view of being a successful student in the deaf community, what do you want to sum up and have people take away?
So I think that my biggest takeaway is just to remind people to use their voice no matter what. You know, even it doesn't matter if it's with an adult or if it's with a peer. You know, sometimes teachers aren't appropriate, you know, like I was talking about with the guided notes, for example. So use your voice and speak up. You know, sometimes people can be stubborn. I am stubborn. And so that's what helps keep me persistent. And I kind of keep that same mentality even with my friends as well. You know, all people are different and people have different needs. And so it doesn't matter. And again, advocate for yourself. Advocating for yourself is very important. And also learn who your real friends are. If you have a feeling, trust your gut. It's important to trust your gut. And if you notice that somebody is really just having a lot of sympathy for you or pitying for you, it's not worth it. Feel free to let that go. You know, there will always be somebody who will really, like, deep down, like, love you from your heart kind of friend. You will meet those people. You know, I have a friend that we've been friends since kindergarten. And sometimes she just forgets that I'm deaf. And then I have another friend that I met in the 7th grade. And sometimes we will practice ASL together. I use more of a C sign language. And so we will come together and we will practice. You know, and we'll have different conversations. And sometimes we'll have conversations because I can voice for myself. And so sometimes we'll be having conversations, we'll be walking, and I'll notice that my friend will stop. And I'll be like, why did you stop? And my friend will be like, oh, but why aren't you signing? And so again, you know, it just comes back to helping my friends practice, and taking every advantage I can to help people practice sign language.
Awesome. I love it. I love watching these faces light up, talking about the things that work. And I love Dahlia that you said trust your gut. You don't have to be friends with everybody. And these days, yeah, you definitely want to trust your gut, and you want to evaluate who's really on your side. I love that. Thank you so much for that. All right, Michael, what do you got for us here? Are some takeaways of being successful in the back to school?
Yeah, for me, similar to what these guys have said, and kind of what's been the theme of the night, is that, you know, me, a student, a person, as somebody with a visual impairment, and I think it's true for anybody across the board, we can do everything that our quote unquote normal peers are able to do in the classroom and extracurriculars and socially and pretty much everywhere else in life. We might just need to do things a little bit differently. You know, most people will sit in a classroom with a pen and a notebook because everyone insists that taking notes by hand is better. I say that I access everything with my laptop and I type my notes, and guess what? I score on the same level or higher as everyone else who took their notes by hand on when it comes to exams. And totally lost my train of thought. yeah, that pretty much we can do everything that our able-bodied peers are able to do. We might just do it a little bit differently. And oh, yeah, Dahlia was saying that she's had friends who forget that she's hard of hearing sometimes. And I used to be in a band when I was in high school, and I have my friends who were in that band with me totally forgot that I was blind sometimes and would leave me. We would finish our set, finish the encore, everyone's screaming, the lights plunge to darkness, and they're off the stage to go grab food and drinks. And I'm still on the stage in the pitch black with cables everywhere. And then like 10 seconds later, they'd be like, oh, right, we forgot to grab Mike. So yeah, but that's how, like, and I think that's how you know who your real friends are, because they see through it and they just see you as a person, and they forget every now and then. So that's as frustrating as it is in the moment sometimes, because I was starving when we finished the set because we had played for 3.5 hours. But looking back on it, it was really nice to see that it was just in the background.
I love it. I love that you're ending on that note, Michael, because I think it's important for everybody to realize that what has been a constant theme tonight, and you can hear it in the voices or see it on the faces of all of our panelists, the pride in each of them being the person that they are. And it happens to be that each of them is a person with a disability or an adversity. And let's face it, we all have something that we bring to the table that we are either overcoming or working with, or are the way that we are because of it. And I want everyone that's watching this and listening to find that same pride and confidence and power in yourself, and use whatever adversity is in your life to your advantage. Use it as something that makes you so unique, and have the same joy and pride and confidence that you saw and heard in our presenters tonight. I got to tell you, I am like lighting up inside and out, because this has been such an extraordinary conversation, mostly because all of you, all of this, I know that the focus is disability and succeeding in back to school, but you've done exactly what our goal is, right? All of the adversity has fallen in the background, and we're seeing you all for the people that each of you are, with your uniqueness and your brilliance, and the fact that you are such go-givers and sharing this with all of us tonight so that even more of us can be successful. I am so grateful. I want to make sure that we walk away with the points that really came through loud and clear for me, and I hope they did for you. And I want to say again, stand up for yourself no matter what. These are the times when you stand into who you are and access those tools and resources you need. Stand up for yourself, and that's where success begins. And we also, it was said a couple of times, I accept my disability. Accept it. It is what it is, right? And then you find the tools you need to succeed. And the word thrive, one of my most favorite words of all time, being the author of Thriving Blind, right? And the word thrive came up because of all of these things that we talked about. I love that. Choose your friends wisely. That is something that we all can take away from this, and should continue for all of our lives, to choose friends wisely. Trust your gut with friends, and also get creative in figuring out strategies. Remember, when you think that something is impossible, or you're going to be left out of something, just think of that woman's face in the office at Michael's school when the blind guy got the parking pass that everybody wanted. Things are not as impossible as you might think they are when you're first looking at a situation. Hey, thank you all so much for joining us tonight. Make sure that you connect with Deaf Kids Code, Thriving Blind, and Tech Kids Unlimited on social media and on all of our websites. Stay in touch. Let us know what you thought about this, if you had additional questions or strategies you'd like to share. And certainly, as school launches, wherever you may be, some of you might have started, some of us, our kids aren't going back until September. I don't know who made that rule, but I don't really agree with that at this point in the summer. But anyway, when you do get back to school, stay in touch on social media with all of our organizations and let us know how it's going. We'd love to hear from you. So thank you so much for everybody that organized this. Thank you to our interpreters. Thank you to the people that invited us all to be here, and especially Aaron, Michael, Dahlia. Thanks so much. You guys have a phenomenal school year this year. I'm Kristin Smedley. Thanks so much to all of you for being here.